Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel, and today we'll look at chapter 10, which is communication. So we're looking at chapter 10 of the IGCSE ICT. If this is your first time watching, thank you for watching. And so we are covering the theory section of the IGCSE ICT for exams from 2023, but I go into much depth. To explain things that will help you maybe as you eventually finish your IGCSE and venture into other areas of ICT. So let's get started. So within this chapter, what we will mainly will look at two main objectives, and the first objective will be to look at communication via email. So that will be the main subject of this chapter, and also we'll look at effective use of the internet, and under that we'll look at things like the World Wide Web, and how is that different from the internet. And then we'll look at intranet and extranet. Intranets like private company networks, and extranets, those extensions of those private networks to communicate with the internet. And then we'll look at blogs, wikis, forums, social networking, and then we'll look at piracy and how it affects these various forms of communication. And also we'll look into internet service providers, search engines, how you can search information on the net, what's the right way to search information, what are some risks associated with searching for information on the net. So to get started, so the first thing we'll look at is communication with other ICT users via email. So basically, I believe each and every one of you, maybe not everybody watching this video right now, in one way or another, you've used one of these mail clients, maybe Apple Mail, Gmail, Outlook, Spark, and other like that, maybe a lot more, but these are the most common. And basically, when we talk about an email, we're looking at it's a common communication method, just like messaging with your phone, messaging on a social media site. But this one is a more professional platform where you can exchange messages between organizations or your friends. And then also look at these constraints which include on emailing. So each country you go to, organizations have constraints on how you can exchange emails, starting from some security measures, and some they look into they have guidelines on how for acceptable content, what should be within an email and what shouldn't be, and which and also what the essentials for responsible email usage. So these are all things that you need to think about when we talk about communicating via email. So now we'll get into some of the constraints on emailing. One of the first one is legislation. When we talk about legislation, we'll see that countries often have like laws to protect people against the misuse of emails, because the protection is all because they want to protect people from abuse and other sort of things. So these are a set of some email laws here listed. So the first one is opt-in permission. So definitely, say many countries require what explicit consent from recipients before sending marketing emails. This protects individuals from what unwanted spam. For instance, if you've noticed at times, this site which sell goods, I don't know which part of the country you are in, but most often if you have used platforms like Amazon, you look things like I don't know which, all these social Alibaba, the rest, all these marketing platform. So most of the times the request for you, if to click on the link if you want to buy something and all those kind of things, some of them they request your permission in some way. Some companies actually send you an email to request you to subscribe to their website and all those kind of things. So this is the opt-in. Then we also have opt-out permission. So this helps in the sense that if you eventually get into something, you should be able to get out of it at your own will. So it shouldn't be like a trap where you're trapped and you can't get out. So companies must provide a clear way for recipients to stop receiving emails. This ensures what user control over their inbox. So if you opt in to receive a news or information from a company through email, you should also have an option to like unsubscribe, so that often those conditions you can click the, and at times they'll tell you, oh, if you are not more interested in this information, you can unsubscribe, and that is it. So there should also be a clear unsubscribe process, so that you can remove yourself from the mailing list whenever you need. And then honest subject line. So when you're sending emails to people, very often it's important that if you're sending an email about ICT lessons, you should clearly state on the subject line that ICT lessons, so that most of the time this helps people. Oh, if it is not important to the person just keeps it, but if it's important, the person could even star it, so that you can look into it later. And then we also have a valid post address. So as a company, you are a company is required to have a physical address in their emails. So very often when people they tell you don't deal with companies that don't have a physical address, because if you have a problem, who do you go to? So that's the importance of having a valid postal address. So anybody can send you an email, but if you have a problem, how do you track down that email? So you need a physical address where you can maybe go to find maybe for accountability. Maybe you have some issues. Then we have also restriction on email harvesting. So companies or many countries prohibit the automated collection of email addresses protecting user privacy, because some companies can take your email address and do whatever they have to do with it and the rest. So because there's a lot of data theft and all the rest going on now. And there's also clear privacy policies. So companies must be transparent and communicate their data handling practices to subscribers. So if you subscribe, they need to tell you how they will use your name, how they use your email, and all those things, because they can get your name, your full name from your email. Some people's email addresses are such that you can like determine their full name from those email addresses. So companies need to also inform you on how they use your email and other details. Now still on constraint, still on legislation, this is just a table. I actually pulled it out from the IGCSE ICT textbook, so you can look it up. This is just a summary of what I was discussing above into a more in just a flyer card. If this is an easier way for you to remember it, fine and good. So you can look into that. And then another constraint is use of acceptable language. You don't just go online and you use any kind of language with any kind of person. For instance, if you're writing to your teacher in an email, it should be very different from the way you write to your friends or your peers. Some people tend to be very professional in whatever they do, so no matter who they are speaking to, they tend to be very professional, which is very good. So there has to be acceptable language used in email should follow what an acceptable code of practice, and anyone using emails or posting messages should be aware of this constraint. So unacceptable content in emails, text, and online forums. So these are some unacceptable things: obscene images, abusive, profane, inflammatory, coercive, defamatory, blasphemous language. All these things are not allowed in many countries in email, because you can be sued for that. And racist and exploitative or violent messages also are very prohibitive. So, and we also have illegal materials or messages. So these are things that you should bear in mind when you're communicating via email with whosoever, and always have your audience in mind. We looked at audiences last time. Always have your audience in mind. Who are you speaking to? If you're speaking to your teacher, there's a tone, there is a formal way of addressing such thing. If you're speaking to your colleague, you're speaking to somebody you're very familiar with, there's also a way you do that. So have this in mind when communicating with people. That is what we call communication skills, and it helps a lot in life. And now this is a typical. Now look at some guidelines an employer could set possibly on emailing and communication within their company. So companies, first of all, companies must publish guidelines for emails and electronic communication use. So this is also like a constraint. Guidelines should be comply with local laws of the country. So whatever guidelines a company sets up, they should comply with the laws of that country. And then companies need to outline how they will enforce the rules they set up. So you don't just set up rules, but you outline how you will enforce these rules. So let's look at some examples of policies or guidelines that a company may use. So for one could be all employees are only to use company emails for business purposes. So you don't use your company email to chat with your friends. You don't use your company emails to subscribe to online, buy things online, or to do things that are not for the company. And secondly, companies can dedicate devices for emailing within and outside the company. So your company email might be locked on only on your company computer, so that you don't use it to do other things. And also you might be restricted to use it only within the company, so you don't even carry that computer out of the office, so you use it only when you're in the office. So some companies do that, and it must be what clear what email contents are unacceptable. So the company must explain this to the employees. So employees must be what educated on the rightful use of emails and the restrictions. So this is also very important. Employees should be what aware of company right to read and monitor emails. So most companies, they monitor the emails that go in and out, such that in case of a problem they can always know what to do and know what has been going on and how to intervene. And then incoming email should only be read by the intended recipient. So some companies have this policy, or except in some cases where they have somebody who is maybe the general overseas manager, he's allowed to read other emails, because at the end of the day most things will come back to him. Then privacy consideration, consequences for violation. So all this should be clearly stated out, so that employees are fully aware of what is going on within the organization. And from here, now we look at copyright and security of emails. What are some copyright laws? What are some security of email? Generally, corporate emails, for instance, if a company ABX sends you an email, they usually have a copyright statement. Even your schools which are very professional, when they send you an email, you will find this copyright and security of information on it. So there is this, like this in code, you find something like any decimation or copying of this email attachment is strictly prohibited unless you are the intended recipient or are responsible for delivering the message to the intended recipient. If you have received this email in error, please let us know, and then delete the original email and any attachment. So these are typically messages that go out with company email. This is for copyright and security reasons. So this is to show that in case the email is wrongfully sent to you, they have clearly told you what to do. Because if they find out later on that you received an email that was not intended for you and you use it wrongly, they have the right to sue you maybe for that wrongdoing, and you are at fault because clearly it was stated that this email is not intended for you, but still you went forward to act on it. So these are things that you should be very aware of and mindful of. So statements may disclaim company views and mention potential disclosure under freedom of all information laws. So companies are cautious about potential copyright infringement risks. So they don't want you to infringe, they don't want you to see things you shouldn't see from their company, and you shouldn't act on them, because by law they are given authority to operate in that way. So these are things that as a student, as a person, as you grow up, as you start working, you need to be really and very much aware of copyright laws and how companies secure their images. Under security still of emails, we also look at security and password protection generally for your email. So still email security is very crucial, and important security measures still also include use of strong password. And typically we've looked at this before. When you want to log into your email, they'll require a password, they'll require a username, and very often we'll say use a combination of letters, numbers, symbols. Avoid weak passwords like pet names. So this is like a very strong password, I would say. So those are things you should practice to make sure that's for you to secure yourself, so that even if the attack comes, it should be that you put up a good fight or something of that sort. And then make regular password changes. So some people, depending on how secure they want to be or whatever, they're trying to protect. They do regular password changes. So if you can do that, fine and good. And then use of spam filter. So you don't want a lot of spam, because spam sideways they used to get into people's inbox. So move suspicious emails to junk folder. Block certain emails entirely. So if you don't know where the email comes from, there's no need opening it. Block it. So it's not every link you have to click on, so we need to be cautious of that. So continuous use of antivirus and anti-spam software to scan your computer and emails is also very important. So these are all security measures that you can use. So one, use of strong passwords. Two, make regular password changes. Use of spam filters. And lastly, you could use antivirus software to continuously scan your computer. And still, when we talk about security and password protection, we need to know that our emails generally are vulnerable to what? Passive and active attacks. When we talk about passive attacks, is unauthorized release of email contents. So not you, maybe somebody hacked into your email and releases email content, and then, or you clicked on a link. And active attacks also message modification. Maybe somebody can intercept your message and modify it, deny or service or system overload, those kind of things. You could have viruses, you could have phishing attacks. So these are different ways your emails are vulnerable. So it's very important for you to protect them the right way. Now we look at Netiquette. When we talk about Netiquette, basically anywhere you go, there are rules on how to do things. Everywhere you operate, there are rules on how you should operate. When we talk about the internet, Netiquette simply means internet etiquette. It's like table etiquette and all these things. So it refers to what? Respectful online communication. Me communicating to you now, there has to be some level of respect I have to put forward. So excuse me, it's important to have this in mind when you're communicating with people online, no matter on social media or wherever. I don't just insult people anyhow. You just don't do things like I don't know, but it's important to have this respect for online communication rules in mind. So some Netiquette rules generally are: you should respect others' views and display courtesy in online discussions and emails. So what you think might not be what I think, but you have to respect my views. And if you have to correct me, you have to say that in a respectful way. Like, so they always say, treat people the way you want to be treated. So be mindful of your writing, as readers can see facial expression or body language. Yeah, the way you write, people can know that you're angry, you're happy, and all these things. So we should be mindful of that. And then humorous intents may be misunderstood and cause offense. So what is like humor in your place or where you come from? Because definitely online communities from people from different parts of the world, and what you find as humor, some people might find is as very offensive. So these are things you also need to bear in mind, so that you don't get yourself into trouble. And be aware of potential misinterpretation when posting or emailing. So when you're posting something, you have some things, content, you have to think about yourself, and you think about another person seeing that thing. How does that person look at it? And all of this, you have to really be careful about it. And eventually, for people who travel a lot or who want to travel, definitely you should know that what you post online can get into trouble, or what you post online can cause you to be rejected from a visa interview and all these things. So you need to be really mindful of some of these things. And there's some organizations that will not allow you to be part of them because of what you post online, and or the way you communicate online. So be mindful of all these things. So various rules also govern Netiquette, such as what the core rules of Netiquette by what Virginia Share. That was back in 1994. And this figure too I picked from the Cambridge IGCSE textbook. You can look it up. This is just a summary. Do not be abusive. Do not send spam. Be clear and succinct with your message. Remember that posts are public. Always check your spelling and grammar. Respect people. Forgive people's mistakes. Do not use capital letters. Some people, yeah, generally capital letters. Writing capital letters is like you're shouting at the person, so you don't want to do that. Do not plagiarize. Yes, don't just use people's words or say things that are not of you. But if you use content that is not yours, you should clearly cite the author of that content. Do not use too many emoticons as what emote icons or what, as they might annoy your readers. And also now we look at apart from emailing, I can send you an email, you can send me an email. We also have what we call email groups, meaning you want to email people, a group of people. So just look at it as one person sending one email to many people. So that is email group. So this is a group of people. This one person can send one email that will come to what, all of them. So that is like an email group. So the purpose of email groups is just to simplify sending multiple emails using a single group name, and enable targeted marketing by companies. So companies can just send out a targeted marketing email to billions of people globally. It facilitates mass spam distribution and ensure comprehensive meeting invitations. So this is a very good way for emailing. And I just want to, as I always say, these things are practical things. Put yourself, imagine you have to send emails to your whole country. How do you do that? What's the best way to do that? You don't go sending one email after another, one email after another. Group emails is the best way to do it. So provided everybody is computer literate, everybody has an email address which he or she regularly checks on. So the group emails or email groups is the best option you have for that. So you just push out a single email and it goes to everybody at the hit of send. Now, what are the benefits? Efficiency in sending to multiple recipients, targeted communication for marketing if you're doing marketing, comprehensive inclusion of all relevant parties, and then concerns might be potential for misuse by spammers. So some spammers usually use that to target people, and privacy issues with address collection and distribution, and then uses in organizations. So generally group emails are mostly used by organizations like your school. A school wants to send out an announcement, it just does like a broadcast. So everybody has a school email, so they just copy everybody in the school and it just goes, one email goes to everybody. And then we have streamlining communication. They can do organization meeting, video conferences, ensuring all relevant parties are included in communications. Now, still on email groups, additional email options. When you're sending an email, there's usually what we have called carbon copy. You see it as CC. There's blind carbon copy. You call it BCC. Normally, I teach these kind of things to my thing. I used to teach this to the year 6 people, like back people in the primary section, so they get to know this before they even get to secondary school. So these are things, important aspects of emailing: carbon copy, blind carbon copy, how to forward an email, how to attach email, to add attachments to emails is very important. So if you are sending to a group of people, you could place them as carbon copies if they don't have a common, because some organization you can actually have a single email address that is linked to multiple email addresses. Just put that single email address. But in cases where you don't have that, you can place all of them as blind carbon copies or at carbon copy, depending on who they are. So when I talk about a carbon copy, what we call, and blind carbon copy recipients are visible to all. So if I send you an email and I carbon copy somebody else, that somebody else is going to know that I sent that email to you, and you two are going to know that I sent that email to you, whoever I carbon copied. But if I blind carbon copy somebody, you are not going to know that I blind carbon copy somebody, and that person too is the person too is not going to know that I sent that email to you, probably. So that's the thing. So for security, when sending to groups, so generally blind carbon copies, you don't want the main receiver of the email will know that you blind copied people, but the people you blind copied will not know that you send it to each of them. So if you want to send an email to people and you don't want them to know that you send it to each of them, you use blind carbon copy. But if you want them to be aware that they each received that email, you do CC. So put your own email. So the way to do this is to put your email into field, create a name, email group, place group name in BC field, and at a go you just push and you get emails sent out to a lot of people. And now in the second main objective, we'll look at the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web, WWW, and the first one we'll look at is the internet. When we talk about the internet, it's just a worldwide collection of interconnected networks. This is a song since from primary school you'll be singing about ICT. And when we talk about the internet, it's a concept relying on physical infrastructure. So there has to be some form of physical infrastructure to support the internet, like servers. We have gateways, we have hubs. So what actually happens is small networks, a school network, another school network, hospital network, all these things, they communicate together. That forms what we call, it's like part of the internet. So another hospital maybe in one country, a school in a country, a company in another country, they find a way to communicate with each other globally. That is what actually makes up the internet. So it's actually a broader system that includes what, various services. And when we talk about the World Wide Web, it's part of the internet. It's just part of the internet, so you can access it via web browsers. So it's a collection of web pages. When we talk about World Wide Web, that's why when you go to search engine like Google, you can type in www something, or you just type in a website if you know exactly what website you're dealing with. And also, based on hypertext transfer protocol, this is based on hypertext transfer protocol for you to transfer web pages, and also a way of accessing information using the internet. So that is the World Wide Web. And you can differentiate, because in cases they'll ask you what is the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. So it is the underlying network. So the internet is like a global collection, while the World Wide Web is a part of the internet. So the World Wide Web also is a service that operates on top of the internet, as I said, and the World Wide Web is just one part of the internet functionality. So these are things. So this is also a summary of these differences. I won't go deeply into it. You can always read it. It's the same thing I was saying previously. Worldwide collection of web pages. Web resources are accessed by web browsers, and users can send and receive emails. On the World Wide Web, it is a collection of multimedia web pages and other information on the website. For internet, it allows online chatting. You can text, you can do audio calls, video, but on the World Wide Web, it just uses communication protocols to access documents and many others. So the next type of network we look at is intranet and extranet. So these are different ways you communicate. So we have intranet and extranet. And when we talk about an intranet is a computer network based on internet technology. So it has internet capabilities. So it is designed for internal information sharing within an organization. So let's say we have a company X. So that company is here. They have an intranet. So that intranet, they use it to share information within the company. So emailing, exchange of files, and the rest. So they cannot use this intranet. This intranet is only within the company. Nobody outside can access it. They cannot also send information outside. So typical characteristics of the intranet is that it has limited access. So it is confined to the company members, not available to the general public, protected by a firewall. So they usually have like a firewall protecting their intranet from being accessed by people from outside, and being accessed also to being used to communicate outside. So advantages over the internet of intranet. So we have enhanced security. So it's also easier to control internal links. So within an account, they usually have like a network engineer or a network technician who takes care of handling communications within the company, and information tailored to internal audience. So most of their communications are for their own consumption, not for outside consumption. Then also safer for sensitive communications. And then we also have better bandwidth and fewer connection limits. So these are some advantages. And basic uses of this intranet is internal company communication. We've already mentioned that. Sharing sensitive information, efficient data transfer within organization. So every organization has its own secret. For instance, if you're producing a specific product, if you go to companies like Apple, if you go to like Amazon and the rest, Samsung and the rest, you find that they produce some unique products, and they need to have secrets on how they produce those products. You don't want those secrets getting to their competitor. The competitor might just use it to produce the same product, give it a different name, tweak one or two things, and they are able to make a lot of money and profit more than them. So they need that security to safeguard their information. Now, when we talk about extranet, an extranet is an extension of an intranet to enable communication outside the organization or company. If you look at this is an intranet and extranet. So if you want to communicate with the outside, you use an extranet. So the extranet gives you what connects you. So it's like a bridge between your intranet and the internet. So just understanding intranet, the bridge between intranet and internet. So it gives you controlled access to the internet, not just any kind of access, but controlled access to the internet. So you can share information between maybe partner organization. Maybe we have a company that has a branch in New York, we have a company that has another branch in maybe Africa, another has a branch in Asia, and the rest. They can use some form of intranet also to communicate between these companies. And key features of an extranet is that it maintains intranet advantages. So there's high security, there's some level of high control over their information sharing. So it enables access for trading partners, provides control information sharing, and very community sensitive and the rest. Then now we look at the internet and intranet. So when we just talk about internet, we look at interconnected network, intranet, internal restricted access network. So those are just an expansions of these acronyms. And then in terms of scope, I try to summarize this in different ways. When we talk about internet, it's a global, it covers everything. Intranet, local, company, organization specific information. And then we look at control, how much access control do you have. So the internet is accessible to what anyone with an internet service provider. And intranet requires what password, user ID for you to access the network. So what we have here is like a diagram. Still you can find this in the IGCSE official textbooks. So what we have here is the internet, we have the extranet, internet. There's a firewall here, so that's why an extranet has this firewall to give you what controlled internet. So this and what this and this is like an intranet. So the intranet wants to communicate with the internet, so they use what extranet, and there's a firewall to protect them against any information breaches. Then the company intranet, they use an extranet to communicate with the internet and the external user. So there are servers, there are firewalls, there are hubs, there are switches, computers, and all of these make up networks, as we saw in the chapter 4. And now we look at differences between the internal and internal. That's the security wise, more vulnerable to hackers and malware, protection by firewall, more secure against external threats. So information storage, internet distributes across global servers. So intranet usually stored on local servers, more secure from outside access. So an intranet is more secure, information is well stored and kind of more secured. And accessibility, we already look at this, all of this. Internet worldwide access, intranet limited to specific organization. So this is still like a rundown of those differences, so you can read. Everything is embedded in this slide. And now just to give you an idea of what could you could find in your exam, this is a passage, there's a question here. They say company is an extranet. Explain what is meant by an extranet. Possible answers could be extension of a company intranet, allows communication over the internet to businesses in a secure way, requires user ID and password to access. So these are possible answers. So the next one is they say you should describe the differences between internet and extranet. So internet allows information access to what general public, while an extranet allows limited communication to what an organization. And an extranet is more secure than what the internet. The internet has more information than what extranet. The internet is not owned by anyone, while an extranet is often owned by an organization. So you should know that nobody owns the internet. An extranet is definitely owned by an organization. So if you forget everything, don't forget that one. Excuse me. And still we have those differences here between the internet and extranet. Interconnected network, internal restricted access network, globally covers, internet cover has global coverage. Intranet, local, company or organization specific information. The internet is accessible to anyone with an ISP. So all of these I've mentioned just to save time. You can read through it, you can listen to, watch and see. Intranet usually stored on local servers, more secure from outside use. And then internet is distributed across global servers. So you should have this in mind. And now we look at blogs, wikis, social networking sites, and forums. I think we visit blogs, all these things most of the time, but we don't know exactly which is which. So when we talk about a blog, it's just a personal internet journal. So some people have blogs just for journaling, and they share their observation or views on specific topics, like they regularly update by the author. There's a reverse chronology order, so meaning whatever comes first you see and the other things are under. There's public but authored by individual, so it's allowed some people, yeah, it's allowed for public to access, but they cannot edit. Readers can modify contents, so readers can only read but they cannot modify. At times they allow for comments, but the comments go straight to their emails. Then we have variations, microblogs. Also we have short frequent posts on social media. So some people have microblogs, so somebody will say chilling with this, doing that, and the rest. People visit, when they visit places, they post it and all those kind of things. So those are some sort of micro blogs. Then we have B blogs, so business blogs for promotion. So you could have a business blog to promote your business, sales and the rest. And we also have wikis. When we talk about wikis, those are web applications allowing collaborative editing, supports hyperlinks, and uses simple syntax. So key features wikis is just anyone can edit, delete, or modify content, and uses simple syntax, tracks document history, and you can easily edit it via a web browser. So these are just things you need to know about wikis. Then when we talk about social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, and all the same, so it builds online community of users with what shared interests, allows people to share media, photos, videos, music, hobbies, places, and so on and so forth. So future of social networking site features of social networking site: we have free web space for members, public and private profiles. So you could have a public, you can have a private profile. Like on Instagram, you can have a public profile, anybody just sees. You can have a private profile, people request before they become you are connected. So content sharing, you can share text, photos, videos, and the rest. You can do instant messaging, video chat. You can do internal email system, control over personal data access, and or the like. So these are things you should know about social networking site. Also have forums, which are generally moderated. We could have moderated forums, so online discussion site where all posts are checked by an administrator before they are published. So moderated forums are usually less controlled, like the internet at large. So the internet is like an unmoderated forum. Most online groups have rules or protocols for members. So key differences: we find that blogs, individual authorship, no public editing; wikis, collaborative editing, multiple authors. So social networking, profile based, focus on what connections; forums, discussion based, can be what moderated or unmoderated. So these are things you should bear. Then we have how does the internet function, functionality of the internet. First we think of what gives internet its capabilities. One of the aspects is what internet service providers. So if you don't have access to the internet, how do you even use the internet? So that is granted in most countries by internet service providers. Like in the US, you have AT&T, you have Verizon, and all the rest. I don't know where you are. Africa, most African countries, they have MTN, and all these other telecommunication networks. They provide internet access, and these usually typically involve what a monthly fee. Particularly if you want access to the internet, you need to be paying to purchase some data or bandwidth. So when that happens, in some cases, if you have you receive login details, user ID and password, and the rest. And a typical infrastructure is of internet ICP owns necessary equipment and telecommunication lines. So they often use what broadband communication. Many utilize fiber optic cables for fast communication, as we saw in networks. Act as what intermediary between user and broader internet. So this is your internet service provider, this is your web, and then this is you. So you request and then it's sent, but you need to have an internet service provider to bridge this gap between you and the internet. And now we'll look at web addresses, uniform resource locators, hyperlinks, and web browsers. A web browser, which is definitely everybody should have seen, is a software that allows a user to access and display web pages on their computer. So if you go to Google, you type in a web address, it helps you to it helps you to access information online. So that's what web browsers do for you. Basically, a web page is interpret hypertext markup language from website and display content as text, images, videos, audio. So web browsers are written in HTML language, so the HTML helps can be this language is interpreted for you to understand. And then common web browser features, you have like a home page, you have bookmarks, like you make favorites, user history, back and forward navigation, and all the like. And when we talk about hyperlinks, typically they appear as blue underlined text. So if you click on the blue underlined text, it takes you somewhere, or small pictures. Some people some people use pictures, small pictures, that if you click on, they take you to another website and all these things. So these are things you should be aware of. Now, very important, searching the internet. How do you search the internet, and what is the rightful way to search the internet? So generally, I believe maybe everybody knows about Google. It's like a search engine. You could just go to Google and you're like IGCSE ICT tutorials. A lot of videos will pop up, but how do you filter out which particular video is best for you to use? So these are things you need to be careful about, because when you search anything, a lot of things will come up, thousands, millions of displays, but you need to know exactly which one is best for you to consume, because clicking on the first link does not mean that's the best information. At times you have to go through a lot of information to get the best result for your whatever research you're looking out for. So like what we have in this GIF, so you just type in a search engine. That's one way to find information. If you know exactly the website, you could just type in the web site on your uniform resource locator, to type in the site address, and it takes you to the website. And here is a search engine. But the search engine, the downside of it is it will provide you with a lot of results, and that's also an upside, because it will give you more information that you can leverage on if you have that time to work on. And still on searching the internet, so the uniform resource locator like has the site address and file name. So if you type in the full uniform resource locator of a web address into a web browser, it gives you what access to the web page. Websites can be accessed using a search engine like Google, like we saw before, and having more information about what you are searching for makes it easier to access the website. So if you know exactly the website, you just type it in. But if you don't know, but you have some clues on what you are looking for, it's easier in a search engine, and that will save you a lot of time. So once you found what you want, you can save it as favorite. That's what they call most of the time bookmark. And to bookmark a page, or you can add it as hyperlinks to your document or somewhere you save. You can save images or web pages from that site. You can copy and paste content, but always remember to properly cite the source of your information. So because it is not good, and it is not good practice to copy people's content, paste it. At times you need to even modify what you're copying, but still you need to cite where you got that information from, because you are not the original author of that information. So always remember to cite your content carefully. Now we look at advantage and disadvantage of using internet to search information. So why you can use information, the internet, to search for anything you want. Still, the advantages and disadvantages to this. First advantage is up-to-date information. Second, you have vast amount of information available, so you get up-to-date, like something that is happening today, somebody is writing it online, so you can access it. And what happened in the 19 or 18 something, when you were not even born, you can, some of it you can see, find it online. And then fast and easy searching using searches. So practically anywhere you are in the world, if you have internet access, you can get the information you need. And disadvantages, why? There's lack of regulation, potential for bias or incorrect information, risks of accessing inappropriate websites. So these are disadvantages. Potential for distraction, games, social network. At times you are seriously studying and get distracted easily by videos online and all these things. Then there's also risks of information overload. You could have a lot of information and you don't even know which one to ignore and which one to really use. So those are some of the disadvantages. Then there's increased temptation for what? Plagiarism. Some people, when they just see something, they say, oh, this is so nice, and next thing you find them doing is copying, pasting, and you don't even cite nothing, and it seems as if it's from you, whereas it's not. And for so that you know some of these things, if they just upload your document back online, it will show plagiarism. Because some schools actually have this plagiarism software, it can show that, oh, everything was copied from this so place. And in some cases, some schools actually, you can be expelled from the school for that, because it is clearly stated that is like malpractice. So these are things you need to be mindful of. And or you could score a 0 in whatever, maybe it's an assignment, it's an exam or something. So you should be mindful of all of this. And now, apart from advantages and disadvantages, how do you know that what I got online is good? What I got online is okay for what for its purpose? First thing is auto legitimacy. What you're getting online, how do you know that it is good? For instance, I'm making videos and you're probably watching right now, and truthfully you should find out, like, what I'm providing to you, is it correct? Is it the right information? So there needs to be some form of legitimacy. And one way you could do that is, I've mentioned my name a couple of times. Some people, the Google of, they find out who are you, what level, like those kind of things. You find out if you are looking for information on maybe ICT, look at somebody who has taught ICT. Even the explanation, you will know that this person knows what he's talking about. And then in some cases, for instance, in medicine, there are people who are well renowned, so they know, they are experts in specific topics. So if you find information from this kind of people, you can know that it's kind of legitimate. And there are also organizations that are what focus on doing certain kind of things. So when you find information from them, to a high degree, you know that it's legitimate. So you should be able to assess and find out if the source of your information is reliable and verifiable. And then factual accuracy. So can your information be verified from other sources? What I'm providing to you, there are a lot of ICT textbooks. You can always look into those textbooks and see what I'm saying. Does it correspond? Am I misleading you? So it's very important for you to be self-aware, so that you don't just take in garbage. Because if you take in garbage, you spill out garbage. So it's very important, and whatever you get online, you should carefully assess it and make sure that it is the proper thing for your consumption. And then objectivity, is there evidence of bias? So providing information, I might find some things that I don't like and I decide not to talk about it. No, that kind of bias, or you can read within the line and you find that somebody is speaking a side in a discussion whereas he shouldn't. So those are things that you should help you know that this is probably not the right source or the right place for me to get what I need. So are there links or advertisements supporting a particular viewpoint? Look into all of the. Then currency, is the information dated? Currency, that's the currency there, is just about the time or timing of the information, and where was it last reviewed and by whom. And then comprehensiveness, does it cover all aspects of the topic? Arguments supported by information and expert references, and all these things. So very important. Website legitimacy, does the website appear legitimate? Do all links within the website work? So always have effectively assess whatever you want to retrieve from online, and so that you don't get into trouble, or you don't get the wrong things from online. And now we look at apart from evaluating your information carefully, internet protocols. The internet, definitely, when we talk about protocols, we're looking at what? A set of rules agreed upon by the sender and recipient for data transfer. So the internet is guided by a set of rules. HTTP, these are things that I typically used to teach in primary school. And then HTTP just means hypertext transfer protocol, so rules for transferring website data across the internet. So HTTP. So if you go to web uniform result, you type in HTTP www.facebook.com, those kind of things. So the HTTP is what helps you to transfer this web page. You transfer information between you and the site. Then we also have secure socket layers. and that's like a layer of protection on your hypertext transfer protocol. So when you have a secure socket layer, it encrypts data for secure transmission. So HTTP is not secured. You should have to be mindful of that. If you have if you type in a website and it just shows HTTP and there's no S, you know that there's it is easy for your information or whatever. If you have information you need to safeguard, it's easy for it to be stolen or intercepted. But if you have HTTPS, it means your site is a secured site. So be mindful of this thing. So that's also another way to evaluate and see if the information you're getting online is good enough, because most legitimate sites are very secured sites. So those are things you need to bear in mind. So the HTTPS have encrypted. You have this S after the P. In some browser they just write HTTP, then you just see a lock sign on it showing that it is secure. So be mindful of all this. So you can have HTTP or HTTPS with a line. This lock sign means that it is a secured site. So as I was saying, we also have file transfer protocol, and this is just network protocol for or rules on how files are transferred between one computer and another over the internet. And similar to the hypertext protocol transfer protocol, you can also have a secure file transfer protocol medium, and email addresses format, like you have your username at this. So that is a specific format for transferring of files over the web. And here still I give you these images. I usually give images a lot because I want you to have a picture of what we're talking about, because this is the best way. People learn a lot from what they see, and because some people don't like reading, you can just look at images, and if you have an idea of what we're talking about here, you can just look at these images and you figure out everything within the site, and you can even bring up your own ideas. So that's why you have these images, and make good use of them when you're doing your reading. And now we'll go through a couple of exam questions, and that should end this chapter. And here the question is, explain the need for copyright legislation when data is published on the internet. So why should there be copyright rules? Why should there be constraints on data? So first thing, copyright is the word legal and exclusive right to produce, permit to be copied for some specific work. So copyright protects you, and you cannot produce copyright work content without permission. So you should know that you cannot reproduce people's content without their permission. So it often starts with creator of a work, but can be sold, traded, or here. So people with copyright laws can actually sell their copyright to people, and copyright legislation supports the original producer of software content. And in some cases, copyright work can actually be transferred even to your children. It could be transferred to your family and those kind of things. So if you have to use other people's content, permission must be requested if needed, and terms and conditions must be carefully followed. So these are things you could possibly use along that. So they also say describe methods that software producers use to prevent software copyright being broken. So they have like license agreements. If you're installing, they're like, do you agree to blah blah blah? You have to just click yes. Most people don't read that. I think we've talked about this before. Holograms often used on packaging of the software to indicate that the copy is what genuine. Some companies use that a lot. Then we have serial number and product key. Some softwares, when you buy them during installation, it will request for a serial number to product keys to validate genuine or that authenticity that you actually purchase that software. And another question, we also find emails are used by people to communicate with each other. Copyright and using acceptable language in the email are two of the constraints that affect the use of email. So copyright and using acceptable language. So we looked at, if you remember, three constraint legislation. We looked at acceptable language, and we look at copyright laws and email security. So this describe 4 other constraints that may affect the use of email. Netiquette is actually also a constraint. Local guidelines set by an employer is also a constraint. Laws within the country which may require email monitoring and people punished for what they write is also a constraint. Using emails for marketing purposes, password protection of emails to avoid people seeing your email content. So they just describe they just want you to talk about what are things that you should have in mind, or what are some things that exist that people should be aware of when using email, when doing emailing. That's generally what is there. What should people be aware of? Netiquette, internet netiquette, how to communicate with people, guidelines by employer, laws within a country, emails for marketing. You don't use company emails for marketing purposes if it is clearly stated. Password protection of emails to avoid people seeing your email content. And in another case, they said emails are used for people to communicate with the copyright and using a simple language. I think this is the same kind of question. They say describe 2 rules of the use of acceptable language in emails. Use clear email subjects. Use a professional email address. Oh, okay. Here they say describe 2 rules of the use of acceptable language in email. So what are some rules to show that you are using acceptable language? So use clear email subjects. Use a professional email address. Use professional salutation and language. Do not use swear or offensive words. Do not use defamatory comments. So we said a lot of things. These are a few. You need just 2, but these are a lot more in addition to what I mentioned earlier. And this nice question. There's a village is built near next to a river. During heavy rain, the river floods and endangers the people living in the village. If the river is in danger of flooding, an email is sent to all members of the village. Explain why an email group is used when contacting the villagers. There is a flood and they want to contact the villagers and they decide to use an email group. Now it comes to your mind, oh, what is an email group and what does it do? From that, answering this question for yourself, you have a lot of answers to give them. So it saves time rather than sending individual emails. You just send out a group email and goes to everybody. Less likely that an email address will be omitted. Email group at times is just a single email which is linked to multiple email addresses. So you just need to type a single email and to type in a single email address and it broadcasts to a lot of people. So the sender does not need to remember every email address. Less likely that the email will be sent to wrong people. So have this in mind and you won't go wrong. So they said the use of email has replaced many forms of communication. Describe the constraint that you need to consider when writing and sending an email. So what are some constraints? Use acceptable language, follow netiquette, respect other people's privacy, abide by laws or emailing of the country, use passport protection, use appropriate. So what I would say is these are just the same questions being asked in another way. So just study exactly how this thing. Once you see constraint, what should you be aware of? Or what should you not do, or how should you behave in this situation? Those are constraints. Because if I say don't do this is a constraint, it means this is something that should guide your thinking, this is something that should guide your behavior. So always have this mind. Same question just asked another way. And this brings us to the last part of the IGCSE theory. And thank you all for keeping up. I know it's been a while since this was actually something I thought I would take. I should have finished long ago, but been very busy, and appreciate your time watching, and I hope in the future to continue uploading videos that will help you to improve your ICT skills and maybe perform well in your IGCSE exams. And for those commenting, thank you so much. Those liking the videos, thank you. And let me know always in the comment sections if you have any suggestions. And just keep a comment, like, subscribe, and yeah, thank you so much. And for further reading, you can always hit any of these links. They Cambridge IGCSE, they usually have a lot of resources you can visit. And I also upload the PDF notes in a link under the description of this video, so watch out for that, and feel free to get the PDF copies of this presentation so that you can read it at your own time. And I wish you well in your exams, and see you in our next video. Thank you.